Welcome to this video. I made a video a while ago with me ranting about the Seagate expansion card, why I thought it was bad, with no real reasons other than it was unnecessary, it was expensive, and I didn't like it. Look, I'll draw little horns on it, like, oh, there's one horn. This is the devil, and he's mean. He's mean, but that may not all be the case, because if you can't tell already, I'm actually going to be talking about the good that can come from this. So he may not be so bad. He may have little angel wings, right? This is my best artistic depiction of angel wings. This is gold. I can't tell. This is gold. That's a halo, right? He could be good. He's still not smiling because whoops. Look, he's a happy angel. Look, he's happy. Some good can come from this. So let's get away from my amazing artistic depictions. Also, I don't know why the sun over here is red. Kind of messed that up. It shouldn't be red. Anyway, I don't know. Let's just get rid of this. Anyways, I'll be talking about the good that can come from this shift. A huge shift, by the way, in storage devices in the console market. If you already bought one, maybe it'll make you feel a little bit better about buying one. Because of course, you know, I know people buy things and then they watch a bunch of videos trying to justify the purchase. I do the same thing, alright? Don't feel guilty. These Gen 4 NVMe drives are unnecessary. Gamers could get by just fine with a SATA 3, which the original Xbox One and Xbox One S didn't have. They had a SATA 2 internal hard drive. I don't know if Xbox One X with a Pro still use SATA 2. I know the Pro still use SATA 2. I don't know about the One X. Anyways, I'm getting off track. We're talking about the Series X and the Series S and the PlayStation 5. Second bad thing, in terms of loading speeds. I'm talking about loading speeds. That's when you're loading into a level, when you're running around that level. The loading everything. Loading into the level, the first time you're playing, loading up from complete shutdown, right? Loading the OS, and loading asset, like loading as you're playing. You know, all the fauna around you, all the flora, enemies, stuff like that. Pulling from the hard drive. And pulling from the games that are slow will still be slow, because the loading difference isn't that vast of an improvement. I mean, it's a couple seconds, but you're being forced to, you know, have these games on the drives that only benefit you for a couple seconds, so you don't really get a choice. That leads me to my another reason. I'm not numbering these, but another one, I guess it'd be the third one, which is you don't get any choice as the gamer. You're just kind of like, well, last generation they had SATA 2 internals, hard drives, by the way, so spinning disk SATA 2, which is horrendously slow. Terribly slow. I don't know why they did SATA 2. You didn't get a choice then, and now you don't get a choice now, but now it's required. It has to be on a Gen 4 NVMe drive that's pre-formatted. So the Seagate expansion card. And for the PlayStation 5, it's a little bit more complicated because you gotta get the Gen 4 NVMe drive, and you should put a heatsink on it because it's gonna overheat and kill the drive. But you don't get any choice, and I love choice. I'll get back around to that in a little bit, because there might be a shining beacon of light, ironically, in the taking away of choice, which is funny, but sometimes it's just how it works. Texture popping is still an issue because the bandwidth of these drives, Gen 4 PCIe, which is a number that I'm going to put on the screen right now, is not being fully saturated, as the hardware just isn't quite fast enough yet. So the benefits, we're not feeling the benefits. It is a huge upgrade from the old SATA 3, and even SATA 3, what? No. From the old SATA 2 spinning disk drive, which is HDD hard drive, and even a SATA 3 SSD. We went straight to a Generation 4 PCIe, getting all that bandwidth, but the hardware has to, in the games, the hardware and the games have to fully saturate that for you to fully get the benefits, reap the benefits, right? It's still better, alright? But what I'm talking about, this is the bad. I'm talking about the cons. Another big bad, it is required For some games to be run exclusively on the internal drive or the expanded Gen 4 storage like the Seagate, depriving gamers of the power of choice. Remember when I said that? It's making you either uninstall and reinstall, which depending on your internet speeds is awful, and moving games between two drives. And I have a 4 terabyte external hard drive that sometimes I'm transferring 2 games between my internal storage on my Series S, and I believe it would be about, it's like a gigabyte per minute of transfer speed. So for like a 60 gigabyte game, sure, you can do the math, that's an hour transferring things back and forth, because I don't have the expansion card, because I don't like it. I'm not gonna buy it. Speaking of waiting for third party or other people to get into the market for the expansion cards, at least for the Xbox, because I know PlayStation is a little bit weird. They're in hot water. They're weird. I don't know what they're doing. But Xbox, they only have Seagate at 1 terabyte and 2 terabytes. And I actually found out today of recording this that they have a 512 gigabyte capacity, 139, which is, $140. 1 terabyte, there it is, 2 terabyte, $400. That's a lot. This is what you got. If you want expansion for your Xbox Series console, Series XS, Series SX, this is what you gotta get. There's nothing else. This is it. The 1 terabyte is about 75%. I think it's 73% with a little bit of other decimals in there. The price of the Series S console for 1 terabyte. And the 1 terabyte is only 44% of the Series X. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Especially you just got a console and you're paying you're paying for another console almost for the price of just more storage. Which is pretty crazy. And I really hope the Xbox Series 2, Series XX, Series XX, they can't do that. So maybe the Series X, maybe you can just get it with 2 terabytes, or the Series S, maybe you could get it with 1 terabyte. Well, that was most of my cons. If you didn't like that, if you're angry typing your comments, you're like, oh, he doesn't understand this, blah, blah, blah. I'm about to get into the good parts. There's good parts. I said the title of the video has good. Here's why it's good. I'm about to get into the good. Alright? The first thing I want to say is we now have the fastest ever load times for consoles ever. Both Xbox and Sony will not have to touch their storage for a long time. Also, as mentioned before, we haven't even saturated PCIe Gen 4, and what that means is because they won't have to touch the storage, and they'll have just like the fastest storage, and because it's required also, everyone's going to have this faster storage for these games. For instance, Halo Infinite, if you're playing on Xbox, it has to be on your internal or the expansion card. Everyone will have the same blazing fast experience, and as Xbox moves forward, they won't have to look back and change the internal drive. As I said, when they release the Xbox Series X 2, or whatever they're going to call it, I have no idea what they're going to call it, they're going to keep the drive and they can focus purely on improving performance, because now they've set the bar so high for their storage, they have to just scale everything up, and that's going to take a while. Take full advantage of the Generation 4 PCIe lane speeds. When you make the load times as fast as possible for all the console players across the board, you can't even think of doing that for the PC gaming space. That's like you can't even do that. Xbox is trying so hard, and I guess PlayStation too, of making a huge change to super fast storage and lessening load times just like across the board, which you absolutely cannot do for PC gaming. It's impossible. Another good thing is games that take forever to load, GTA, Red Dead, stuff like that, they'll take less forever to load, right? Meaning, even if they're just a bit better and the load times are just, a couple seconds better, it's still quicker. It's still a quicker load time, in the long run, it's still faster. You're gonna launch into the games faster. I know when I got my Series X, I didn't get a Series X. When I got my Series S, right, I was surprised at how fast it launched from me plugging it in and turning it on. It was so quick. The boot up was, it was amazing. It was so fast. And that little thing, that little difference, that means a lot in the long run. And this small difference is such a huge improvement over spinning disk drive. And it's in terms of reliability. I know SSDs have limited reads and writes, but a spinning disk drive has physical moving parts, which are always worse to work with than just something that doesn't move at all, which is why optical disk drives, are also phasing out. So I got the Series S just because I don't really use disks anymore. And from a maintenance standpoint, the disk drive would be the first to fail. Your fan would be because it moves, would fail. And your hard drive, because it moves, would also fail. And the less moving components you have on a thing will just make it last longer. And of course, I mentioned SSDs having finite reads and writes. While they do have finite reads and writes, typically you're not reading and writing things over and over and over again, which is why I do not like transferring between my hard drive and my internal, just because every single time I move a game off or I move a game on and it's reading something and it's writing something and it's installing and uninstalling, it's taking away from the total lifetime of the internal SSD. It just is. And I would rather not do that, but it's what it is. When I don't have enough space, the SSD is gonna get used. Another great thing, actually, this is a pretty good one. It allows games to be way more complex, incredibly more complex. Games can load things faster. You can have more complicated worlds. You can have less of something that looks fantastic. You can have more of something that looks really good. It can do more. The console can pull more assets faster with the Gen 4 drive. The bandwidth hasn't even been, once you fully saturate it, that's a lot of bandwidth. What is it, 8? No, it's like 16 gigabytes per second. Or something like that. I'll put it on the screen again. But yeah, it's crazy. This is a huge leap over last console generation's hard drives and a massive upgrade that will last a long time. I already said that. I'll say it again. It's gonna last a long time. I don't know what they were thinking with last generation and SATA 2 spinning disk drives. This generation's storage will last a long time. And by storage, I mean the storage type. They're not gonna have to change to Gen 5 PCIe anytime soon. Whenever Gen 6 rolls around, they're not gonna be jumping on that because they won't have to. Alright. See? I told you guys at the beginning of this video, when I put the title in the thing, that there is some good that can come of this change. It only feels so awful and so bad because not only were the consoles released during a pandemic, which isn't their fault, alright, it isn't their fault, but it's still really bad, the consequences of which are bleeding into 2022. It's still a huge problem with the chip shortage and all that supply chain stuff. It's pretty crazy still. Both Sony and Xbox upgraded from a spinning disk HDD straight to a Gen 4 NVMe. They completely skipped over the SATA 3 hard drive or SSD, and they skipped over Generation 3 NVMe drive altogether. They went from a SATA 2 drive, I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but a SATA 2 spinning disk drive, they just went whoop! It went straight to a Generation 4 PCIe M.2 NVMe drive. That's a lot of words and a lot of letters I just said, but it's a huge leap, and it makes it feel so bad because you're going from one thing that was okay at the time. It's pretty bad at the time, honestly. You look back, it's terrible. You go from that terrible thing to this ultra mega super great thing, and you're just feeling the consequences of the pandemic, the chip shortage, everything getting expensive. SSDs, the Generation 4 NVMEs are expensive still. This drastic change, along with the requiring games to be run on them, as I said, makes for a very difficult transition, even if it is for the greater good of gaming consoles overall. It just sucks. It's such a thing that I want to talk good about, and I mean, I guess I did. I did talk good about it. A year from now, 5 years from now, looking back, it is going to be a huge improvement. Like, this step isn't gonna suck. It only sucks right now. It's gonna get way better as time goes on. At least I hope it does. And you know, it should only get better. I should look back and be like, well, it was good. This was a good idea, Xbox and PlayStation. I should cut in here. This is me from a little bit after I recorded this video to tell you that there is some alternatives. They're not like actual alternatives for the Seagate expansion card, but here's one. This is on Newegg. It is an M.2 to CF Express, which if you don't know what CF Express is, it is that connector right here that it uses to connect to the Xbox. It is that slot. That is what the connector is. CF Express, which is strange because cameras used that before, but now they're using it for Xbox. It's kind of interesting. They're converting it to Gen 4 PCIe compatibility. The problem with this though is there's this one, and then you go here, there's this enclosure, which is kind of the same thing, except it just plugs in. There's no drive in it, as you can tell by the price probably. There's 1 star out of 5, only 1 rating. But they have, look at all these nice pictures they have. It's on marble. That means something. The problem with this is it requires, it says it right here, WD-SN530. And it also says it right here. The CH is from the Xbox console itself, the Series X console itself. That's the only place you can get a CH SN530. You have to have that to put into this, to then put in your console for it to recognize it as extra storage, because that is the only way, besides getting the Seagate expansion card, that you're going to get extra storage. So I believe in my last video, I was like, somebody just make a connector for it. I didn't know it was CF Express. It is CF Express, but the problem with that is it's still locked behind what Xbox has, right? They're still requiring it to be a certain drive. And as far as CF Express, because it's proprietary, like they converted a CF Express to Gen 4 PCIe with all the lanes and stuff. Just go ahead and buy. If you need storage, you absolutely need storage. You cannot wait. You don't want to transfer things, or you don't have anything to transfer from, or if you don't want to uninstall and reinstall because downloading takes forever. I understand that completely. They now have a 512 gigabyte version, which I think is interesting. I still really think the price difference, the better one to get would probably be the 1 terabyte, because the 2 terabyte is $400. I mean, that's 2 terabytes for $400. That's $200 a terabyte. This is $220 a terabyte. But, you know, do with that information what you will. If I was to get this, I would get the 1 terabyte. I'm probably not going to get it anytime soon. But of course, I'm not you. It's just how that goes. I'm just a person on the internet talking about tech stuff. So that is, that's that. That's how this video goes. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way through, make sure to subscribe if you really want to. Give it a like if you want, because you can't dislike it. I mean, I guess you could, but it doesn't really mean anything anymore. YouTube's going crazy. The world is ending. The chip shortage is crazy. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really hope to make more tech stuff maybe in the future. I don't have a very consistent schedule at all, like with anything, but we'll see. I'm dipping my toes into this tech thing. It is very enjoyable for me to talk about, for me to look at. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, as you did in the last one. Thank you so much. And I love you, so bye.